list for my own son just to sit down so he could talk about it was not available to him. It took 8 months. So I thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London will have 15 minutes coming to her when we resume debate, plus 10 minutes of questions that go with that. Statements by members, déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de la...
The honourable member for La Pointe-de-l'Île. Mr. Speaker, it would seem that the Prime Minister of Canada just realized that the notwithstanding clause exists. And not only does it exist, but it's useful and legitimate. The notwithstanding clause allowed Quebec to avoid implementing certain provisions of the 1982 Constitution, which ran against the identity of the population of Quebec. The province never signed the Constitution. It is up to Quebec to decide and not a judge on the Supreme Court. René Lévesque applied it to all of Quebec's legislation. Since then, notwithstanding provisions were used for 41 laws in Quebec to protect socially progressive measures and to protect our distinctive national identity. Let it be clear, if the Canada wants to restart a war about Quebec's societal choices, the Bloc Québécois will be in its way.
Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Dartmouth Cole Harbour's beautiful Lake Banook and Dartmouth, Nova Scotia's paddling culture. Mr. Speaker, in Dartmouth, folks don't ask if you paddle, they ask where you paddle. Last month, Lake Banook successfully hosted the 2018 Pan American Canoe Sprint Championships. Over 350 elite paddlers from more than 16 countries competed on our world-recognized natural racecourse. I want to thank and commend the folks at Atlantic Division Canoe Kayak Canada, Banook Canoe Club, Micmac Amateur Aquatic Club, Abenaki Aquatic Club, Sonobe Aquatic Club, and all of the incredible volunteers who worked so hard to make this event a success. Paddling has always been a huge part of Dartmouth's identity and its culture, and Lake Banook is our world stage to showcase our pride in our community. In 2020, Lake Banook will host the World Championships for the 3rd time. Mr. Speaker, I invite you all to come to beautiful Dartmouth, Nova Scotia in 2020 to experience all that Lake Banook has to offer.
The honourable member for Foothills.
A loving mother, grandmother, wife, but most importantly, Mary Gillard was a beloved educator. Mary passed away earlier this summer on her 95th birthday, but the impact on her community will be her long-lasting legacy. Over the course of an outstanding 65-year teaching career, which lasted until she was 82, she inspired generations of Albertans. Mary believed that every one of her students had a unique gift, and she taught them work ethic, the importance of community, but most importantly, respect must be earned, and she was right. A mentor and an educator, Mary was one honored multiple times for her teaching and her community support. She was given the Silver Falcon Award for outstanding service to the community and youth, the Okotoks Rotary Integrity Award, and the school division gave her the Outstanding Teaching Award when she was 87. She shaped the hearts and minds of so many in our communities, grandparents, parents, sons and daughters, including my own. For generations of Okotokians, Mary was a guiding light in the classroom and community. Together, we honor the life and legacy of this outstanding, inspiring woman. Thank you.
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you, kind Speaker. How do we know what we know? Politician philosopher Daniel Patrick Moynihan once wisely said, everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts. However, often we deal with people who seem to enjoy using their own facts. It seems that anyone can find their own set of facts and then use those facts to reinforce their own opinions. The great Stephen Colbert once termed the phrase truthiness, which is meant to denote how smart, sophisticated people, like all of us in this House, can go awry on questions of fact, ideas that just seem right without reference to logic or intellectual rigor, as hard as that may be to believe. However, this is true in all walks of life, but especially true in politics. It seems that with increased politicization of debate, there comes increased public cynicism, which is probably why polling has recently shown that 4 out of 5 Canadians believe that when politicians make public statements, they tell the truth less than half the time. I trust that all of us in this House are exempt from that admonishment. So, Whether it's facts, logic, or some form of truthiness, it seems important that we consider the trust that Canadians place in each of us as their representatives when we choose which of our set of facts to embrace.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, after 3 years, this government has done little to help Canadian seniors and retirees. The Prime Minister promised during the election campaign to use every tool in the toolbox to fix Canada's flawed bankruptcy and insolvency law to protect workers' pensions, but so far has done nothing. After news that 18,000 Sears retirees will lose 30% of their pensions, we still heard nothing from this government. The government made a promise to consult in their last budget, but clearly Liberal promises are not worth the paper they are written on. Changing the laws to protect workers' pensions is not hard. My bill C-384 and Liberal Senator Art Akelton's bill S-253 lay out straightforward measures to fix the problems. Still, the government refuses to act. For 3 years, I've been asking this government to change the laws to protect Canadian pensioners. Every time I get back the same non-answers. The lack of respect is insulting Canadian workers and retirees. Let's stop the pension theft.
L'honorable député de Thérèse de...
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, here's what you need to know about Thanksgiving, other than the fact that it's a statutory holiday. The roots of Thanksgiving extended back to 2,000 years ago, at a time when Indigenous peoples celebrated the fall harvest. After the arrival of European colonists, Thanksgiving was celebrated for the first time in 1578 by the explorer Martin Frobisher in Newfoundland. Mr. Speaker, if I have any advice to give to the turkeys, it would be to run. I don't know where, but run. Because 3 million turkeys are going to be eaten in Canada this weekend, with cranberries on the side, which were originally harvested by the Algonquin, and were served during festivals as a sign of peace. Celebrating Thanksgiving is celebrating life, family, and peace. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Mr. Speaker, the loss of democracy in any country should concern us. Cambodia is falling back into the darkness it experienced in the past. Prime Minister Hun Sen has destroyed democratic institutions and practices. He's outlawed the opposition, jailed the opposition leader, Kem Sokha. The July election was fixed and illegitimate. Cambodia's history as a one-party state has had long-lasting consequences that the Cambodian people have worked hard to overcome. Democracy is foundational for the establishment of human rights. Exiled Cambodian leaders like Mu Sokha have addressed members of this House calling on Canada to speak out. Today, I do call on this Liberal government to press for the restoration of democracy in Cambodia and call for Kem Sokha's immediate release. We call for the restoration of the rights of the opposition and a new election. Until then, we ask that this government not recognize the representatives of this illegitimate regime.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, this Thanksgiving, I give thanks to the incredible young people in Parkdale High Park. Students who had the courage to stand up and be heard on something that is vital, their education. In 2015, Ontario revised its sexual education curriculum to bring it into the 21st century, to address things like same-sex families, gender identity, online bullying, and consent. But the new Ontario government has seen fit to reverse that curriculum, to take it back to 1998, when things like the internet and online sexual predatory activity was in its infancy. This reversion is not only unwelcome, it is unhelpful. It prevents our children from learning how to protect themselves. But it's not just me that disagrees with the reversion. It's also hundreds of my young constituents from Parkdale Collegiate, Western Tech, Ursula Franklin Academy, the Student School, and Humberside Collegiate, who walked out of class on September 21st to say, we do not consent to taking education backwards. Today, I lend my voice to theirs. Sex ed must be modern, inclusive, and empower our young people about how to stay safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for London West.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses make up 98% of Canadian businesses and employ over 10 million hardworking Canadians from coast to coast to coast. One such small business is Turner Drugstore, an independent pharmacy located in my riding of London West, which recently celebrated its 80th anniversary. Jeffrey Robb, a pharmacist and the current owner, has worked at Turner Drug Store since 1974 when he was just 14 years old. This small business holds a special place in the heart of many Londoners as it has provided pharmaceutical, vitamins, and herbal remedies to the community for 8 decades. Our government knows the fundamental role that small businesses play in our economy, and we will continue to support their growth and success. I would like to extend my sincerest congratulations to Turner Drug Store for reaching this astounding milestone. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, this week LNG Canada approved a groundbreaking $40 billion investment in developing Canada's liquefied natural gas industry. Now, the Liberals would like to claim that their carbon tax plan is working, but mega projects like LNG Canada cannot move forward under the spectre of this Liberal carbon tax on everything. Provincial governments across Canada get it. You cannot grow the economy by adding new taxes. The Manitoba government is the latest to pull out of this Liberal carbon tax scam, and others are soon to follow. That's why the BC government gave LNG a pass on new carbon taxes. The project would not have gone forward otherwise. It's time for the Liberals to recognize that their carbon tax and spend agenda is failing Canadian businesses and Canadian families.
Hello. The honourable member for Scarborough Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I recently had the privilege of attending a parade recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 617 in my riding of Scarborough Centre. Branch 617 is proudly known as the Dam Busters, commemorating the iconic air raid of the Second World War. You may have seen the movie. Since its founding, Branch 617 has served to our veterans, providing a place for them to socialize with their peers. Their Poppy campaign supports services for veterans who need help, and the annual Remembrance Day ceremony at their cenotaph ensures that we will remember them. They also support Squadron 166 of the Royal Canadian Air Cadets and the NLCC Prince of Wales of the Navy League, helping to instill a spirit of responsibility, discipline, and leadership in the next generation. Félicitations à la branche.
Congratulations to Branch 617 for its 50th anniversary, and thank you to all of the branches of our Legion throughout Canada. The Honourable Member for La Salle-et-Mar Verdun. Mr. Speaker, it is with great pleasure and honour that today, for the 3rd year in a row, I welcome citizens from my riding here in Ottawa as part of the traditional Day on the Hill, which I've been organizing since I was elected in 2015 as member for La Salle-et-Mar Verdun. As politicians, we are elected to represent the interests of citizens in this place to the best of our abilities. Therefore, it is a real privilege for me to have at my side the people behind the work that I accomplish with pride every day.
I want to thank the people of La Salle and Mar Verdun for their confidence and for taking time to travel to the Hill today. Thank you for your interest, your passion, and your hard work. It's what drives me to accomplish my duties as an MP. Thank you. Merci.
The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, less than an hour ago, many of my colleagues, including my good friend from Red Deer Mountain View and myself, had the privilege of taking part in a torch lighting ceremony at the Centennial Flame. Now, this ceremony was the official start of the Canada Games torch relay in advance of the 2019 Canada Winter Games. The torch relay is an important part of the Canada Games, and it will unite communities across our nation. This is the first time ever the torch relay will travel Canada-wide to mark the Games, with 48 communities from coast to coast participating. A huge thanks to MNP for sponsoring the torch relay, to the Games Committee, their staff and volunteers who are working tirelessly to organize this incredible event, and to all of the torch bearers who have been nominated to carry the torch on behalf of their communities. In 134 days, the Games will begin, and we are ready to welcome Canada to Central Alberta and to join the festivities and watch our amazing athletes perform. Mr. Speaker, Red Deer is ready, and everyone is invited.
I suppose members will be all fired up now, so to speak. The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians of German origin are one of the largest ancestral groups in Canada. 1 out of 10 Canadians is of German ancestry, and 1 of every 5 live where I do in Waterloo Region. The Kitchener-Waterloo Oktoberfest, now marking its 50th anniversary, is the largest Oktoberfest celebration outside of Germany. It is a 9-day celebration of German heritage filled with food, music, and festivities. So, put on your lederhosen and your dindros and experience the Gemütlichkeit as you polka the night away at one of our 17 Festhallen. On behalf of myself and the members for Kitchener-South Hespeler, Kitchener-Conestoga, Cambridge, and Waterloo, it gives me great pleasure to invite all members to join us tomorrow at Kitchener City Hall for the official keg tapping opening ceremony. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Salaberry-sur-Roi.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, my riding of Salaberry-sur-Roi, like every other riding in this country, is experiencing the effects of climate change. The challenge is even greater in peripheral regions because we have to fight to maintain economic activity and welcome new businesses to cut down on rural exodus. I am very proud to be able to announce in this House that the city of Salaberry de Valleyfield made its mark on both fronts. Last week, the mayor's office announced an agreement with the Solargize company to build a large solar panel factory. This is an investment of nearly $1 billion that will create 450 jobs. And this great news is made even better by the fact that this company makes solar panels without plastics. I would like to congratulate the mayor, Miguel Lemieux, municipal councillors, and everyone who made this project a reality. The municipal level did its work, and now it's up to the federal levels to do more to fight against climate change. Thank you.
A member for Dauphin, Swan River, Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, when it came to the Liberals' carbon tax, Manitoba Premier Brian Palliser tried to be reasonable. Premier Palliser is a strong conservationist himself, which led to the development of the Manitoba Climate and Green Plan. The plan focuses on the 4 pillars of clean water, conservation of natural areas, effective steps to address climate change, and strengthening the economy. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister was completely unreasonable. It is clear to me that the Prime Minister's intransigence in the face of an eminently reasonable proposal gave Premier Palliser no choice but to move forward with his Made in Manitoba Climate and Green Plan without a carbon tax. Hear, hear. I applaud the decision by the Manitoba government to protect taxpayers from the Liberals' heavy-handed carbon tax scheme while still moving forward with a detailed environmental plan. I look forward to seeing the real and tangible environmental outcomes that will flow from the Manitoba Climate and Green Plan while ensuring Manitoba's economy continues to grow. Thank you, Premier Brian Palliser.
The Honourable Member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, here on Parliament Hill and all across the country, vigils are being held in memory of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I invite all Canadians to observe a moment of silence today on the occasion of Sisters in Spirit vigils, which have been taking place since 2006. A vigil can take many forms, from a walk to a rally to a shared meal, a moment to reflect and a moment to remember. Let us honor our sisters in spirit by participating in a vigil today. Let us demonstrate our shared commitment to end a national tragedy of violence experienced by Indigenous girls and women in Canada. As Sisters in Spirit Vigil founder, Kaduka Terry Brown says, "Grandmother, lighten our path in the dark. Creator, keep our sisters safe from harm." Today, we remember all of them and work towards a safer country.
Alors, suite aux discussions en...
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in the context of the Sisters in Spirit Vigils held each year on October 4th to honor the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I now invite honourable members to rise.
Eulalia, thank you. Merci. Oral questions. Questions orales. Honorable
The honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the USMCA includes Provision 32 that stipulates that the United States are involved in our trade negotiations with non-market economies. That gives President Trump the right to interfere in our economy, and it imperils our sovereignty and to negotiate our own free trade agreements. Can the Prime Minister tell us what he got in exchange for that major concession, the Honourable Minister of Transport? Mr. Speaker, it is very important to diversify our trade agreements in order to grow our economy. We are a trading country, and within NAFTA, it has always been possible for parties to withdraw from the agreement. That is essential. Each country has the sovereign right to withdraw from a trade agreement. Nothing in this agreement infringes on the sovereign right of Canada to develop trade relations with countries of its choice. The honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Well, it's so impressive how this party is able to avoid answering questions. Loss of economic sovereignty, maintaining tariffs on steel and aluminum, maintaining taxes on softwood lumber, concessions in the dairy market, pharmacare drugs going up. All these concessions to our workers throughout the country. Will the government tell us what economic advantage they managed to get in exchange for all the concessions to President Donald Trump? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, I am mystified by why the Conservatives are not applauding us for this deal that we signed Sunday night. This isn't just any agreement. This is an agreement that is good for Canada. All other Canadians know this. Why won't they realize that? It is so important for our economy, for stability, for long-term access. We have succeeded, and they should be acknowledging that.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, 100 years ago, 60,000 Canadians died in the Great War. Their sacrifice, their bloodshed is full of the remembrance of that war. Parliament's full of reminders of that sacrifice. Their bloodshed paid for an independent Canadian foreign policy. It paid for our signature on the Treaty of Versailles. It paid for the Statute of Westminster. But this government was so desperate for a deal, we now have to ask Washington for permission to negotiate free trade with certain countries. Article 32 makes us a vassal state. Is this restoring Canadian leadership in the world? Is this standing up for Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
We will take no lessons from the Conservatives. We have always been a sovereign country. We will always be a sovereign country, and we will negotiate trade agreements with any country that it is in the interests of Canada to negotiate with. That is how we run things in this government here, and that has always been the case. And in case you didn't know it, under NAFTA, any party to NAFTA is allowed, or under the new arrangement, to leave with 6 months' notice.
Wednesday was yesterday. Order. Order. A little order, please. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister had the chance to respond to Canadians, do the right thing, and move Tory Stafford's killer back behind bars. He had a chance to speak out against this terrible decision and act to reverse it. Instead, he did what he always does when he's challenged. He acted like a bully and he called us names. But in doing so, he rejected the calls from Canadians and indeed from Tory's family to correct this injustice. So when will the Prime Minister stop acting like a bully, stop calling names, do his job, and reverse this terrible decision?
The Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our hearts go out to the family of Tory Stafford for the loss they have endured and have lived with in the last 9 years. The Corrections and Conditional Release Act makes individual placement decisions of inmates the responsibility of correction staff, not politicians. The Minister of Public Safety has asked the new Commissioner of Corrections to fully review the placement decision in order to ensure it was compliant with all correctional services policies and to make sure these policies are adequate.
Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Tory's dad couldn't have been clearer. He wants the Prime Minister to reverse this decision. We all want action. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister could immediately implement a broad policy which would make sure that no child killer is placed in a healing lodge. That would include McClintock and anyone like her. It would be a broad policy. It would be very simple. It would satisfy the concerns that the government has. So again, will the government do their job? Will they act? And will they reverse this decision with a broad policy?
The Minister of Social Development.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts are with Tory Stafford's family for the suffering and the grieving they have suffered over the past several years. Under the legislation, any inmate placement decisions are the responsibility of correctional services, not that of politicians. The minister has been asked to review, the minister has asked the commissioner to review policies and decisions to see if these policies can be improved in any way. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, for 4 months now, the United States have been imposing customs tariffs on 10% of aluminum imports and 25% on steel. Prices are going up and orders are going down. What is the result? Profit margins are going down. Throughout Canada, thousands of people could lose their jobs. Working men and women were hoping that the new NAFTA negotiations would get rid of these customs tariffs. Why has the government signed a new trade agreement with no assurances that these tariffs will be eliminated?
Ministre of Transport.
The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, I want to reassure Canadians that we continue to discuss tariffs, those Section 232 tariffs, with the United States. Our position is firm and clear. These tariffs are not justified. The agreement is yet another is more proof that we put workers at the top of our list of priorities, and we ourselves impose $16 billion worth of tariffs on the United States. We have fought for Canadians at the negotiating table, and we will continue to fight against these tariffs for steel and aluminum workers. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, it's Quebec SMEs that process metal, and they have been hard. In my Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region, working men and women are wondering if they'll still have a job. Thousands of families are living in uncertainty. This is a position that no one wants to find themselves in. Quebec produces 90% of the aluminum that is exported to the United States. The Trump administration must withdraw those customs tariffs on aluminum and steel. When will this government come forward with the plan? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we also are fighting against these tariffs that are completely unjustified and that were imposed by the United States based on national security, which makes no sense. Canadians and Quebecers in the aluminum industry know that we are fighting against these tariffs. They know that we also imposed, in retaliation, $16 billion worth of tariffs, and we know that we are here to protect them because we know how important these aluminum and steel industry workers are.
Every single day, workers in Windsor, Essex and Ontario have to face the fact that this government has abandoned them. Failing to get steel and aluminum exempted from U.S. tariffs in the new USMCA deal is clear proof that this government doesn't care about Canadian workers. Experts have said it doesn't make sense to make an agreement where there would be a tariff on a particular good. What do Liberals have to say to the tens of thousands of families whose livelihoods have been left on the line because of their failure to get an exemption?
The Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that Canadians understand the very strong position taken by this government against the United States tariffs imposed on aluminum and steel. They know that we are there to protect them. They know that we are there to provide protection while these tariffs are on. They know that we have imposed counter tariffs of $16 billion on these 232 measures, which are completely unjustified. Canadians know that this government is there for them.
Honourable member for Essex.
A strong position would have not been to leave the table without those tariffs removed. Do the Liberals not realize that we are talking about 2,000 small shops across our country. While the big players are painfully weathering this storm, small shops are fighting to keep their doors open. While Liberals keep bragging about the USMCA, we're talking about small businesses and shops that are drowning under these tariffs. The NDP has called on the government to strike a national tariff task force to help with this urgent situation. Will Liberals agree to the task force to help small business, or have they turned their backs on them too?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I'm always somewhat baffled by the NDP position. If I'm not mistaken, the NDP doesn't really want us to go ahead with USMCA, and yet they have all sorts of comments to make about it. Strike some task force, do this and do that. The fact is, we care about the Canadian population and the future of our trade with our neighbours to the south. We now have over $2 billion per day of trade with our southern neighbours. This is good for Canada, it's good for our economy, and I wish the NDP would change its mind about trade agreements.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I bring great news from my home province of Manitoba. Yesterday, our Premier Brian Pallister announced that Manitobans will not be subjected to the carbon tax. Manitoba abandoned the Liberal carbon tax plan and came up with its own green plan after the Prime Minister's arrogance and Ottawa knows best attitude. Manitoba has made it clear, and so has a number of other provinces across the country. A carbon tax does not work, and it costs Canadian families. So, will the federal government respect the provinces, and will they finally abandon this terrible carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government respects the provinces. That's precisely why we committed in the Pan-Canadian Framework, signed by the Government of Manitoba, to work with provinces to design a real climate plan to deal with the real threat that climate change poses to all Canadians. We regret very much that the Government of Manitoba has decided to pull out of the plan that they had previously submitted, which put a price on pollution. They obviously think that pollution should be free. And, Mr. Speaker, we don't agree with this flip-flop from the Government of Manitoba.
Hear, hear. Honourable Member for Edmonton Wetaskiwin.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Manitoba joins a growing number of provinces in saying a firm no to a national carbon tax. The Liberal carbon tax plan is clearly in shambles, and the minister can't even tell us by how much her tax will reduce Canada's greenhouse gas emissions. Experts on all sides are now saying that the Prime Minister's plan is nowhere near meeting his international commitments. So my question for the minister is clear. Will she confirm today that her government will not meet its Paris Agreement emissions targets?
The Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm so excited to hear the party on the other side actually talk about targets, actually talk about climate change. Maybe they should accept that pollution isn't free, that there's a cost, and actually we're seeing the cost from coast to coast to coast with extreme weather events. There's also a $26 trillion opportunity. So I can't wait to see the Conservative Party's plan to tackle climate change, to meet the Paris Agreement, and to put a price on pollution.
Order. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister arrogantly believes that he can deal with the pollution problem through another tax. But now another province is telling him that he is on the wrong track. The provinces know that families cannot afford this, and even the Liberals know that industry can't afford this. Now that Manitoba is rejecting the carbon tax, will the Prime Minister abandon his plan to tax struggling families? The Honourable Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, as I said a few moments ago, we regret the decision of the Manitoba government to withdraw from a plan that would have put a price on pollution. We think that Canadians know that their government should be working with provinces to tackle climate change. And Canadians also know, Mr. Speaker, that if Manitoba does not have a plan that meets our commitments from 2 years ago, well, then a federal plan will be applied. And we are going to reimburse that money to the residents of that province.
For Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, we know that people who will be hardest hit by this tax are families and seniors who are struggling to exist, and part of that is because the Liberals have given large emitters an exemption from their own tax. no targets, bullying. Those are some of the reasons why Manitoba has joined the growing list of provinces that are rejecting the Liberals' job-killing carbon tax. Will the Prime Minister finally admit that his national carbon tax is a failure and drop this tax hike once and for all?
The Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, we have a plan to protect our environment, to take action against climate change. Why? Because Canadians expected it. They voted us in to grow the economy and tackle climate change. Unfortunately, the party opposite doesn't get it. We're back in the Harper era where you think that you can't grow the economy and you can't protect the environment. Well, we're going to do both. We're going to continue acting. We're going to recognize there's a cost to pollution. We're going to continue creating jobs and growing our economy.
Order. The honourable member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's carbon tax is just another example of a Liberal failure. My province of Manitoba is the latest to stand up for families that just can't afford another tax. And in fact, the Prime Minister acknowledges that industry can't afford it neither. The BC LNG project was only announced after the Prime Minister exempted them from paying this carbon tax.
There you go.
Will the Prime Minister cancel his carbon tax, or will he insist that hard-working middle-class Canadians pay this tax?
There you go. The Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, you know what failure is? Failure is not recognizing that there's a price on pollution.
Order. Order. Members, I know will want to hear both the questions and the answers, and I would ask them to restrain themselves. I know they're able to. I have great confidence that members are able to act like adults and restrain themselves. The Honourable Minister of Environment has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, you know what failure is? Failure is not recognizing that there is a cost to climate change, and we're paying it right now. You know what failure is? Failure isn't recognizing the $26 trillion opportunity. We're not going to fail. We're going to continue growing our economy. We've created more than 500,000 jobs. We have the fastest growing economy in the G7. And you know what? Our emissions are going down. You can do both. I only wish the party opposite would recognize that climate change is real.
Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And only a Liberal would believe that taxing everything would actually grow the economy. Yesterday, my Premier, Brian Palliser, announced that he's standing up for Manitobans by saying yes to Manitoba's Green Plan and no to the Liberal carbon tax. Millions of Canadians are rejecting the Prime Minister's tax on everything. And why? Because family and industry simply can't afford it. When will the Liberals finally do the right thing, respect provincial jurisdiction, and axe the Liberal carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, it seems only a Conservative would believe that you can't tackle climate change and grow the economy. When are they going to get with the program? That you can grow the economy, that you can create good jobs, that you can invest in innovation, that you can have innovation here creating solutions that we can export abroad, creating good jobs. And at the same time, you know what? We can ensure a more sustainable future for our kids. We're going to continue doing what Canadians expect. Grow our economy, tackle climate change, protect our environment, create good jobs for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bacotte. Mr. Speaker, the agreement signed by the Liberals is sowing discontent throughout the country. Yvon Boucher, president of the dairy producers in Montérégie-Est, told me how angry producers are for having been duped by a government that broke yet another promise. Under this bad agreement and all the preceding breaches, dairy producers will be losing every single year a month's worth of wages. Would the Prime Minister or any member of his government, or anyone for that matter, say that they had signed a good agreement if they were going to be losing a month's wages?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I said many times in this House, we're the party that implemented supply management, and we are the government that did defend supply management. It's important to note that the American government indicated quite clearly at the beginning of these negotiations that their desire was to destroy the supply management system. We made sure that did not happen. Mr. Speaker, we will fully and fairly compensate our farmers and make sure they continue to succeed. Also, the Prime Minister met with the farmers today, with the dairy sector, and I met with many of the supply management sectors across this country. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Order, please. Mr. Speaker, since the new NAFTA was signed, I have received many emails from young dairy producers from our riding who are worried. They're worried about their future, given this new breach. This 4% concession is on top of the CETA's 3% concession and the TPP 3.25%. Dairy producers and the new generation of agricultural producers are very, very disappointed about having been sacrificed once again by the Liberal government. How can this government say in this House to these young producers that they signed a good deal for them, because it's not true? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we fully support our dairy producers, their families, and their communities. And it was the United States' intention to destroy supply management, and we are the ones who protected it. This agreement will provide access to the market, but it will protect the supply management system. It has not been jeopardized, and we will always support our dairy producers. And the Prime Minister had a good meeting with dairy producers this morning.
For Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, for Canadian families who depend on the oil and gas sector, every day counts, as they are left in limbo by a Prime Minister who has failed, yet again, to deliver a real plan to get the Trans Mountain Pipeline built. The only plan this government has is to bury this pipeline in so many delays that it never gets built. When will the government take this seriously, appeal the federal court ruling, and request a stay of the decision so that the construction process can begin now?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We share the Federal Courts of Appeal's view that we can and must proceed by engaging in a specific and focused dialogue with First Nations that are involved in this project. That is exactly what we intend to do. Let me be very clear. We are not starting over. We are building on the relationships that we have, the information that we have gathered, and the consultations that we have done to date. We know it's worth taking the time to get it right together, and that is the only way that we can move forward. Mr. President.
The member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister thinks he's fooling Canadians with his so-called plan for the Trans Mountain Pipeline, a consultation to find out how to consult. Canadians know a real plan when they see one. Sticking your head in the ground and crossing your fingers is no plan. When will this government snap back to reality, start consultations immediately, and ask for a stay in this decision to finally get shovels in the ground to start construction on the Trans Mountain Pipeline?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. For 10 years, they have not built one pipeline to new markets. Canadians know now more than ever we need to get our resources to market. For them, consulting with First Nation is a suggestion and not a constitutional obligation. For them, climate change is not even real. Mr. Speaker, we respect the court's decision, and we will take the path that it has provided us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, plain and simple, the government bought an expensive pipeline they can't even get built. If the Liberals had any intention on getting the pipeline built, they would have begun consultations and appealed the decision. Clearly, the member from Edmonton Mill Woods is incapable of standing up for hard-working Albertans. Will he finally admit that all this has just been a delay tactic on an economically vital project for Alberta?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that getting it right and in consulting and respecting the decision from the Federal Court of Appeal is the way to move forward. For the Conservatives, they disregard Federal Court of Appeal decisions. They disregard consulting with First Nations. Their record speaks for itself. For 10 years, not one pipeline was built to new markets. They could not get it right. We will do it the right way. That's Mr. President.
The honourable member for Grand Prairie Mackenzie.
Well, the member across the way is new here, but he's totally wrong. There was 4 major projects that got oil and gas to new markets, and if the Liberals would do one thing, it would be to take a lesson from us, because ever since they took control of this pipeline, they've ended all work on the pipeline. They sent Kinder Morgan packing with $4.5 billion of taxpayers' money so that they could build pipelines in the United States. This last week, the minister from Alberta, the Minister of Natural Resources, announced additional delays that are going to kill this project. When did the minister decide to betray Alberta and kill this pipeline?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let's look at the Conservatives' record on pipelines. When they took office in 2006, 99% of our oil exports went to the United States. Flash forward to 2015, 99% of oil exports still go to the United States. Oh, great job. The Conservatives had 10 years to expand the global markets. They did not do so. Why? They did not respect First Nations. They did not respect the court's judgments. And at the same time, they did not respect the environment. To move forward, we need to do it in the right way, take the time that is needed, and ensure that we move forward in a meaningful way.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, Netflix has announced a permanent office in France. They're going to be doubling their investment in French production. They'll even be paying taxes and collecting sales tax. They'll take 2% of their revenues for film production, and 30% of their content will be European. What a crazy, revolutionary idea. The French asked Netflix to respect their culture and pay their fair share. Will the new Minister of Heritage do his job, put an end to special treatment, and even get commitments from Netflix to create here? The Honourable
We'll always be there for our artists and creators, and that's exactly what we've demonstrated through our cultural policy last year. We've made historic investments of $3.2 billion in the cultural sector, including in the CBC, the Canada Council, Telefilm, and the NFB. Due to the previous government's inaction, our culture laws predate the internet, which is why we're reviewing them so that they continue to support high-quality Canadian content production. The principle of this review is clear. If you participate in the system, you will contribute to the system. There will be no free ride. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, 90% of CRA experts state that it's easier for the rich to escape their fiscal responsibility than average Canadians. These are experts from the agency, and they say 90%. This is a total failure for the Revenue Minister in her so-called fight against tax evasion. In her ivory tower, she thinks everything is working. Will the minister today contradict 90% of her own employees, or say that the Liberals have always favored the rich and Liberal friends?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the Harper Conservatives, fighting tax evasion in Canada and abroad is a priority for our government. We have made historic investments in the CRA for the fight against tax cheats. We have fully adopted the international standards for automatic information exchange with our partners in the OECD, which gives the CRA useful data to help fight tax cheats even more effectively. The CRA is able now to assess the risk of 100% of our large multinational corporations annually, and is better able to identify taxpayers who participate in a...
Honourable Member for Sackville, Preston, Chesetco.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. Speaker, in official language minority communities, community media play a very important role, whether it's sharing news, local news, or for expressing cultural identities. It's extremely important, and it is for this reason that the Minister made a very important announcement today. This has to do with the community media in official language minority communities. Can the Minister please share with the House what will happen? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his excellent question. Our minority language communities are very important for us, and to have strong communities, they need to have newspapers and media that serve them. Right now we have responded to their needs by saying, ready, I ready. We will be investing $140 million in media for official language minority communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Speaker, yesterday the Liberals voted
against our Conservative motion to put 8-year-old Tory Stafford's killer, Terry Lynn McClintic, back behind bars. Also yesterday, though, Tory's father, Rodney Stafford, visited Ottawa and gave several media interviews in which he asked the Prime Minister to reverse the transfer of his daughter's killer. Will the Public Safety Minister and the Prime Minister listen to Tory's father, the outrage of Canadians, and put McClintic back behind bars?
Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
The loss and pain that the family of Tory Stafford have suffered, it's heartbreaking, Mr. Speaker. Section 28 of the Corrections Act says that inmate placement decisions must be made by correctional services. Parliament decided that this power does not belong to a minister. However, the Minister of Public Safety asked the Corrections Commissioner to do a review, ensure that policies and procedures were followed, and that those procedures remain appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, Parliament actually has opined under Section 6 of the Act that the Corrections Canada officials have to listen to the minister, Mr. Speaker. Before, under the Conservatives, Tory Stafford's killer was behind bars. Under the Liberals, she was moved to a healing lodge. And yesterday, Rodney Stafford, the father of Tory, made an impassioned plea to the Prime Minister to put his daughter's killer back behind bars. He said, I want to see if I could kind of touch him a little. It's not about politics. Will the honourable members listen to Tory's father immediately and put Terry Lynn McClintic back behind?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We do understand the loss and pain that Tory Stafford's family has gone through all these years. But it's important to understand the powers that have been vested in this Parliament by Parliament. Former Harper PMO lawyer Benjamin Perrin said, "This may be unpopular to voice, but I'm concerned with politicians being the ones who decide how any particular individual offender is treated." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-au-Beaupré et d'Orléans-Charlevoix. Yesterday, during question period, the Prime Minister asked us to listen to Tory Stafford's family, and we've been doing that since the beginning of this debate. We are listening to the family, and we are their voice in this House. Tory's father wants this criminal who so horrifically took his daughter's life goes back behind bars. Why are the Liberals continuing to defend the indefensible while they should be defending and listening to the victims of this heinous crime? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Section 28 of the Corrections Act says that inmate placement decisions must be made by corrections services. This act was created in 1992 by a Conservative government. As much as he might like to, the Minister of Public Safety cannot simply overrule laws, including the ones created by Conservative governments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister said that we shouldn't try to guess what Tory Stafford's family wanted when it came to putting her killer back behind bars, but we don't have to. Tory's father said yesterday somebody clearly messed up, made a mistake, and I'm just trying to get this mistake reversed. Tory Stafford's killer was moved from a prison to a healing lodge under this Prime Minister's watch. Now, the Prime Minister can run, but he can't hide from his responsibility, so why doesn't he finally do the right thing today and fix this mistake?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, that particular inmate was reclassified from a maximum security to a medium security under the previous government. Mr. Speaker, we believe that we have the correctional services who are in place. They are the professionals. They are the ones who know these cases, and to discuss this in an individual base in this place is not appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Desnethie, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, Marie Trottier is a Métis elder from Buffalo Narrows who this week shared her
experience with me of just how expensive medical care is for elders in my riding. Like Murray, too many northern elders and seniors have to pay to get to a hospital in the city. They have to pay for hotels, meals, and for their prescriptions. This is unacceptable. Why is the Minister of Seniors proud of the work she's done when so many Northerners are being left behind?
Well, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member for the question. This government has invested $2 billion in rural and northern communities, which includes projects that support food security, local roads, renewable energy, and enhanced broadband connectivity. We have also made the New Horizons for Seniors program more flexible, and this program is directed at combating isolation. It also helps to promote exercise and activity. Mr. Speaker, we've also automatically enrolled for GIS recipients. 210,000 seniors are now receiving benefits. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work for our seniors to ensure that they are appreciated and included in our...
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, this summer the Prime Minister appointed a Minister of Seniors with the mandate to conduct hearings into protecting workers' pensions. So far, Canadian workers and retirees have heard nothing. The Liberal rank and file passed a motion at your convention to fix Canada's flawed bankruptcy legislation. A Liberal senator introduced a bill to do the same thing. On my cross-country pension theft tour, Canadians made it clear they expect this government to fix this problem. Why is this minister refusing to listen to Canadian workers and retirees?
Well, seniors.
Speaker, pension security is very important to our government. That's why the first time in 20 years we increased the CPP so that security will be given to those retirees. Also, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member knows, he's speaking about workplace pensions. Our government has committed in the 2018 budget to consult with stakeholders on this issue, and I am delighted that this is also included in my mandate letter. The member knows, and all members of this House know, this is a decades-old problem, and our government is going to consult in order to get this right, in order to protect our pensioners.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, delays in hearings for asylum seekers, they're just getting worse. Yesterday we learned that an asylum seeker in Montreal was told to come to a hearing for his application on, believe it or not, January 1st, 2030, which is also a statutory holiday 12 years from now. Mr. Speaker, the government's ridiculous management on this file, it just is ridiculous. When will these files be dealt with in a reasonable time?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I rarely get the opportunity to stand up and correct a typographical error, which was the case in this matter. But, Mr. Speaker, it's rather ironic that after a $400 million cut in CBSA, our government has been working diligently to restore Canada's capacity to deal with asylum seeker claims in a timely way, including making a significant investment of some $72 million to restore CBSA's capacity to deal with removals in a timely way. Mr. Speaker, we're working diligently to uphold and to ensure Canadian law is applied properly, as well as Canadian humanitarian principles.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, everything points to these delays just going on and on. Now that we know that illegal migrants will be living forever in hotels at our expense and without the Liberals caring, Mr. Speaker, will Liberals force Canadians to pay for hotel rooms for 12 years in order to deal with the files of illegal migrants, and this being paid for by Canadian taxpayers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we have a plan, and the plan is working. We have seen a reduction in border crossings over this year over last year. Conservatives are continuing to politicize this matter by spreading disinformation, and they cut almost $400 million from government bodies responsible for managing this sort of problem. I find it rather surprising that they have the nerve to stand up and say things aren't working.
Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals have repeatedly misled Canadians saying illegal border crossings are under control, that everything's fine. But hundreds of millions of dollars later, we still have people crossing illegally into Canada. The Minister in charge of border security has clarified that less than 1% of these illegals have been removed. Now we're learning an asylum seeker had their hearing scheduled for 2030. 2030. What is the minister planning to do to stop illegal border crossings, and does he expect taxpayers to foot the bill for his failures until then?
Yes. Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd point out once again that during that Harper decade, they cut $400 million from the CBSA and made significant cuts to the government's ability to deal with asylum seekers. We're restoring that capacity to deal with these in an effective way. We've made significant investments to work through the existing backlog, and the typographical error the member refers to has already been clarified.
The honourable member for Dorval-Lachine-Nassau. Mr. Speaker, today we're celebrating the first day of the torch. The Olympic Canadian Games torch is starting its journey and will go through 40 communities in the country.
Athletes in 2019. Can the Minister of Science and Sport tell us more about this great event?
Mr. Speaker, thank you to my colleague for an excellent question about sport and youth. Today on Parliament Hill, we gathered to light the Canada Games torch. In February 2019, youth from coast to coast to coast will gather in Red Deer, Alberta. They will compete in curling, hockey, speed skating, and many more sports. Sport builds healthy lifestyles, self-esteem, and memories that last a lifetime. We're
very proud to support the Canada Games.
Mr. Speaker, rural municipalities across Ontario depend on mail-in ballots for their local elections. The latest contract offer from Canada Post has been rejected by its union. Canada Post has told election officials it doesn't have to honour the contracts to have the ballots delivered before Election Day. Will the Prime Minister direct Canada Post to have the ballots delivered by taxpayer-owned Purolator before the election?
Yes. Honourable Minister of Employment and Labour.
Mr. Speaker, as we said time and again, our government, unlike the party opposite, respects the collective bargaining process and believes in the ability of parties to work together to renew their collective agreement. I have mediators from federal mediation working closely with both parties. The talks continue. We're monitoring the labour negotiations, and we continue to stand by the parties with mediation assistance. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Victoria.
Patricia Kidd from Victoria was married to her husband Pete, a naval surgeon, for 31 years. They raised 2 sons and loved each other until the day Pete died in April 2016. Yet Patricia isn't getting a penny of his pension as the Liberals continue to deprive veteran spouses of benefits if the veteran they marry is over 60. The minister keeps telling me this is a top priority, but these widows are still waiting. Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals immediately eliminate the archaic over 60 clause so widows like Patricia can finally get the pension they deserve?
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for the question. And indeed, in the many town halls that I've done right across this country, this is something that has come up time and time again. I know that it is important to many veterans and to many of their families, and I can assure that member and this House that we are indeed working diligently on this file. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saint Louis.
Members of my youth council and I went to visit the shore of my riding looking for plastic debris. Fortunately, owing to the vigilance of our local municipal authorities, our cleanup effort was a light one. However, like all Canadians, my constituents are growing more and more concerned about plastics in waterways. Can the Minister of the Environment tell us what she is doing to implement our commitment to reducing plastic waste in federal institutions and also generally across the country so we do not have to worry about plastic pollution in our waterways?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
I'd like to thank the member for Lac Saint Louis for his question. I'd also like to thank the members of his youth council for stepping up and tackling one of the biggest challenges our time, plastic pollution. our lakes are literally choking in plastic pollution. If we don't take action now, we will have more plastics by weight in our oceans than fish. We know we need to take action. We stepped up at the G7. We have countries and businesses who have stepped up to sign our Oceans Plastics Charter. We've also committed to eliminating single-use plastics in government operations. We're investing in innovation. We're developing a national zero-waste strategy, and we owe it to our kids.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, since the unfortunate episode in 2012 of red dust emanating from the Quebec City Harbour, citizens are very concerned about the quality of air in Limoilou. For some weeks now, we've had preliminary results with respect to the quality of air in this sector because of a study by municipal authorities. I'd like to know what the government intends to do about this concern on the part of the people of Limoilou. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very happy. I'd be very happy to speak with the member about this issue. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. After a meticulous investigation, Bruce Campbell, a researcher, confirmed that justice has not been done for the Lac Mégantic victims. Not only have those responsible for the tragedy not been sanctioned, but we learned that the original version of the report was fiddled with before being made public. All this because of political pressure from the Transport Minister, Industry and the government. Will the government confirm that there has been political interference in the drafting of the TSB report and make public the original reports? Mr. Speaker, there was no interference. I'd like to say once again that the Transport Safety Board looked very carefully into what happened in Lac Mégantic. There have been many recommendations, some addressed to the federal government, and which we are now implementing. There were trials. This lasted 5 years, and I would also add that there are many people in Lac Mégantic who don't want to have to relive these past 5 years. The report was fulsome and the file is closed. The Honourable Member. This is extremely serious, Mr. Speaker, because the people in Lac Mégantic want to see the public report or the public study. From what we have learned from Mr. Campbell, the Transport Safety Board is not at all independent. The government, just like the rail industry, are putting pressure so that these reports will not criticize them. The government has to take things seriously right now. When will the government do justice for the people of Lac Mégantic and begin a truly independent investigation? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I regret this performance on the part of my colleague. The file will be studied in depth, and I would say once more that rail safety is my first priority. I've been working on this file for 5 years, and we have completed all stages in this investigation. This is extremely disagreeable, all this for the people of Lac Mégantic. They don't want to relive it. The Honourable Member for Beauce. The Prime Minister said that farmers under supply management will be to such a degree compensated for extra tariffs to please the Americans. So it seems we'll be helping them produce while preventing them from exporting. So are they going to buy back quotas, put an end to supply management, and allow farmers to innovate?
Indicated clearly in this House and many times, our party implemented supply management, and we're the government that defended it. Also, Mr. Speaker, it's important to note that the American government wanted to make sure that the supply management system was destroyed. We made sure that would not happen, Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, we will fully and fairly compensate farmers and make sure they continue to seed. We have and will continue to support the supply management system in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Wade McLaughlin, Premier of the province of Prince Edward Island. believe the honourable member for Chilliwack, for that. The honourable member for Edmonton West is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like the House's permission to table a document. It's the most recent Transportation Safety Board of Canada document. And why, you ask? Well, I want to read the departmental results. States their goal is transportation system is safer. And all 3 years since the Minister of Transport has taken over the job, they say it has not been met, and our rail safety is less safe, which defies and goes against his comment that it is the #1 priority. It is not.
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent of the House to... no, there was no unanimous consent. The honourable member for...
The honourable member for Repentigny on a point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, you will see that there will be unanimous consent of the House to table the book by Mr. Campbell, which will shed new light on Lake Megantic and which describes the actions by all people involved in this terrible accident.